7 News tracking breaking news on the Boston terror attack. In the last 2 hours, we have learned 3 people have died after 2 bombs went off at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. One of those killed was an 8-year-old boy.
We also heard from the FBI agent in charge. He said that the motives and the suspects, the range of those is wide open. In other words, at this moment in time, they have no idea who did this or why.
What they did, Dzhokhar and Tamerlan, isn't disputed. How they became the bombers is the question. How did they evolve? Who were they?
The first thing that comes to mind is, please God, don't let it be a Muslim.
It's important that we do this right. That's why we have investigations.
It was the beginning of 5 days of terror.
(10 a.m., April 15th, 2013). On this cool Monday morning, more than 23,000 people lined up to run the 117th Boston Marathon. It was perfect running weather. Men and women from more than 90 countries gathered to embark on the 26.2-mile course, and over 500,000 spectators excitedly waited on the sidelines. At 11:05 a.m., the first pitch was thrown, and the race began. The course began on Main Street in the rural New England town of Hopkinton and followed Route 135 through Ashland, Framingham, Natick, and Wellesley. The course runs through a total of 8 Massachusetts cities and passes historic landmarks such as the Newton Hills and Boston College University. It finally comes to an end near the Boston Public Library in Copley Square. The winner crossed the finish line at roughly 12:10 p.m., and by 12:36 p.m., the majority of elite runners had finished the race. Crossing the finish line on Boylston Street is not only a moment of pride for the runner. The people in the stands and watching at home take pride in seeing people cross that line. At roughly 2:08 p.m., the Red Sox game ends, releasing approximately 37,000 people onto the streets of Boston. About 5 hours into the race, at 2:49 p.m., the first bomb explodes. Roughly 12 seconds later, a second bomb exploded some 600 feet from the first. It, too, was planted on the north side of Boylston Street amid a crowd of onlookers.
Fucked up over here. Hey, there's gotta be people hurt up there.
All feelings of pride and joy were swiftly replaced by the feeling of pure terror. At 2:50 p.m., triage and treatment of those injured begins immediately. Radio transmissions from Boston Police Department, Boston Fire Department, Emergency Management Services, and MSP are being transmitted. At 2:52 p.m., Boston Police Department, Explosive Ordnance Disposal Teams, SWAT, and other first responder teams are deployed. A minute later, hospitals receive radio and email notification that a mass casualty incident has occurred at the finish line. 3:28 p.m. All remaining marathon runners are stopped on course with temporary shelters opening for runners to head to. And less than an hour later, U.S. President Barack Obama contacts the mayor of Boston and the governor of Massachusetts by phone. 4:31 p.m. The Boston Police Department commissioner announces 12-hour shifts for all sworn personnel in the Boston Police Department and cancels all leave. More than 100 of the seriously injured were transferred to area hospitals as local police and federal investigators surveyed a crime scene that covered 15 square blocks. Once the dust had settled, it was calculated that 3 bombing victims died of their injuries, one of them being an 8-year-old boy. Overall, 265 people were injured and 17 lost limbs.
That's scrap metal coming out. It's buried under my skin. It's gonna have to be brought out during a later surgery. The same with a few of these up here. There's some other stuff here.
Mark Fucaryle was injured by the second explosion. His right leg was amputated, his left was badly damaged, and he suffered shrapnel wounds and severe burns.
It's been hard, a lot of pain, heavily medicated. I haven't really talked to anybody because I don't want to say the wrong thing, being on medication like I am. To heal all the wounds that I have, it's pretty crazy. But I found myself not trusting people a couple of days after I came up out of, because I was traumatized. When I finally came out, a couple of days later and whatever, someone put something down in the room, and now I'm panicking because no one saw this guy walk in the room, put something in the room, and I'm like, who was that guy? Like, what guy? I'm like, that guy. Like, what's that? Like, oh, probably just a phone. That I go, well, probably. I'm like, I want to know what it is. It's like, I have my anxiety, and nervousness. Oh, Grammy.
Don't move,
I don't know how much I can.
I love you.
I love you
I
too.
miss you.
Miss you more.
And my boy.
Hi, Grammy. You all right? You got a pillow behind her back?
No, don't take that away.
Don't worry, she's fine.
I'm fine now.
But what they didn't just affect all the injured people. It's affected our family. Like my fiance, my son. He's really scared. He's nervous. He's a worrywart. I can see it on his face. Like he worries about hurting me. So I loosen him up. I let him punch me. Hard. You can hit harder. Your faith in people can be shattered. Like, can't trust anybody. Can't believe this guy just did this to everybody and killed innocent people. But then at the same time, the next day, you have random people, strangers, just offering things, sending you things, giving you things, helping you, praying for you, lighting candles. What other people are doing just makes you feel like there's more good in the world than there is bad.
On this flag the whole time.
The flag he was waving that day is now a blood-soaked memento of a massacre, and he detests the people who did it.
Killing innocent people and children, it's just the worst people can do this. The worst people.
If one thing was certain, it was that whoever did this had to be caught.
Good afternoon, everybody. Well, we've had a horrific attack here in Boston this afternoon. Commissioner Davis is going to give some details about what we know so far. Mindful that we don't have the whole picture yet, but we have gotten a good deal of information. Commissioner Davis will take all of us through the information that we have, and then I'll come back and talk about some of the things and ways in which we're going to ask people to help us help you this afternoon. So let me turn it over now to Ed Davis, Commissioner of Police here in Boston.
Thank you, Governor. At 2:50 p.m. today, there were simultaneous explosions that occurred along the route of the Boston Marathon near the finish line. These explosions occurred 50 to 100 yards apart, and each scene resulted in multiple casualties. At this point in time, all of the victims have been removed from the scene. We have sent officers to hospitals to be in touch with family members and possible witnesses. We immediately activated a system of response that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the federal government has in place for these type of incidents. My first two calls were to the special agent in charge of the FBI and to the colonel of the state police. Both Rick Delorier and Tim Albans immediately sent resources. We have, at this point in time, determined that there has been a third incident that has occurred. There was an explosion that occurred at the JFK library. So this is very much an ongoing event at this point in time. We are not certain that these incidents are related, but we are treating them as if they are. We're recommending to people that they stay home, that if they're in hotels in the area, that they return to their rooms, and that they don't go anyplace and congregate in large crowds. We want to make sure we completely stabilize the situation.
Following the attack, the police force worked tirelessly to try and figure out who had carried out these bombings, how they had done it, and whether or not they were going to do it again. Law enforcement personnel solicited assistance from the public, asking for photographs or video footage that might prove relevant to their investigation. It was revealed that devices used in the attacks were household pressure cookers that had been packed with an explosive substance, nails, and ball bearings, the latter two elements acting as shrapnel when the bombs detonated.
These FBI investigators are examining this ground inch by inch. They have found enough evidence to narrow their search, but not enough to lead them to any conclusions. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for this attack, and there is no known motive.
6:10 p.m., President Obama holds a press conference in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, everybody. Earlier today, I was briefed by my Homeland Security team on the events in Boston. We're continuing to monitor and respond to the situation as it unfolds, and I've directed the full resources of the federal government to help state and local authorities protect our people, increase security around the United States as necessary, and investigate what happened. Boston is a tough and resilient town, so are its people. I'm supremely confident that Bostonians will pull together, take care of each other, and move forward as one proud city, and as they do, the American people will be with them every single step of the way. You should anticipate that as we get more information, our teams will provide you briefings. We're still in the investigation stage at this point, but I just want to reiterate, we will find out who did this, and we will hold them accountable. We still do not know who did this or why, and people shouldn't jump to conclusions before we have all the facts. But make no mistake, we will get to the bottom of this.
The president explained that he had been briefed by his Homeland Security team, who were continuing to monitor the situation as it unfolded, but made it clear that they still were unsure of who the attackers were. But that didn't stop people from drawing their own conclusions.
A new concern has emerged, that attacks may come not just from Al-Qaeda, but from more obscure groups already assimilated into the fabric of American life.
I think people want answers, just like 9/11, like any other, and they want answers, but give them a chance. Things like these don't really happen overnight.
Discourse about the terror of Islam and Islamic conspiracies erupted into several 24-hour news cycles and social media frenzy that included racist commentaries and allegations about the identities of the Boston Marathon bombers. Links were instantly drawn between the marathon bombing and the tragedy that had happened 12 years prior during the 9/11 terrorist attack. Feelings of Muslim distrust continued to spread throughout the nation, despite the identities of the attackers still not being confirmed.
Well, I think that, obviously the vast majority of American Muslims after 9/11, whenever there's an act of terrorism or mass murder, whether it's the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting, whether it's the Aurora, Colorado Dark Knight Batman killing, the first thing that comes to mind is, please God, don't let it be a Muslim, because we know that, whenever there is an act of mass murder committed by a brown dude with a foreign-sounding name, you know, it's something that it casts a pall upon the entire American Muslim community. And, you know, there are Muslim victims of the bombing in Boston. There are Muslim marathon runners. You know, we grieve with the country. This was an attack on all Bostonians, on all Americans, regardless of their race, religion, or ethnicity.
But the fears of many Muslims across the nations were confirmed when the identity of the bombers was finally revealed.
A mile away, investigators, dozens of them, searched the scene of the explosions. They've collected fragments of the bombs, but it's the video taken from this rooftop opposite the second bomb that's raising hopes. It shows a man placing a bag in front of spectators.
The FBI were flooded with videos and photos from the public, but it was this video in particular that gave them their first substantial lead. A young man can be seen walking casually through the crowd wearing a white cap and a backpack. He blends into the crowd of spectators, but watch what happens when the first bomb goes off. After combing through hours of footage, the FBI believed they had found their first suspect. Notice how when the first bomb goes off, everyone looks to the left. Everyone except the man in the hat, who quickly walks to the right. And as soon as he leaves the field of view of the camera, the second bomb goes off. The FBI called him White Hat.
Investigators analyzing photos and video think they may have identified a suspect filmed near here with a black bag. Detectives say there's progress. Many don't feel it. Some clues here point to American, not international terrorism. But this is a case with plenty of evidence and few answers.
5:20 p.m. Thursday, the 18th of April, 2013. A media briefing is held where FBI provides an update on the investigation.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Delorier, and I am the special agent in charge of the FBI's Boston Division. Since Monday's bombings, the FBI and our law enforcement partners have been working around the clock and are fully committed to investigating this matter to bring those responsible to justice. Our collective law enforcement team has pursued thousands of leads and tips. As I said 2 days ago, we are working methodically and with a sense of urgency to identify those responsible for the bombings. Within the last day or so, through that careful process, we initially developed a single person of interest. Not knowing if the individual was acting alone or in concert with others, we obviously worked with extreme purpose to make that determination. Today, we are enlisting the public's help to identify the two suspects. After a very detailed analysis of photo, video, and other evidence, we are releasing photos of these two suspects. They are identified as Suspect 1 and Suspect 2. They appear to be associated. Suspect 1 is wearing a dark hat. Suspect 2 is wearing a white hat. Suspect 2 set down a backpack at the site of the second explosion just in front of the Forum restaurant.
As President Barack Obama visited Boston that morning to speak at a prayer service and meet with victims, law enforcement officials pondered whether they should go public with the video images of the bombing suspects. But at around 5 p.m., the FBI publicly released photos and descriptions of the two young men and asked the public for help in identifying and finding them. With the images of the two suspects now available to the public, it wasn't long before their identities were revealed. Brothers Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. The FBI now had images and names, but who were they really?
Tamerlan was the product of a very chaotic and a very dysfunctional family on multiple levels. His parents were quite dysfunctional. We found that they lied in a number of cases, or certainly appeared to, and the family was really very destabilized. They came here, they struggled to adapt, and things seemed great for a while. But as they began to kind of reach back to some of their cultural traditions, in particular, the arranged marriage for their youngest daughter, Alina.
Hey, stranger.
What's good, baby?
I thought you were supposed to take me out.
Things began to fall apart. The marriages didn't work out for both of the girls. The girls came back into the house. They were all of them with 2 babies, 1 each of the girls, living in a very small apartment on Norfolk Street. And it was getting pretty crazy. It was loud, there was never enough money, and Tamerlan began to not really be able to function. He apparently struggled with hearing voices in his head. In 2 cases, we found people who talked about this. Tamerlan's mother, Zubeidat, told her good friend that her son had heard voices inside of him, that he felt there were 2 people, and she was worried about that. But, you know, Tamerlan could do no wrong also, so she didn't worry that much about it. One of the other interesting things we found about him was that although he was a good boxer and did well on some levels, he was not the kind of Olympic boxer that some people talk about, and that he and his father even dreamed about. He was somewhat lazy, he didn't go to the gym that often, and a number of trainers began to lose faith in him. So the combination of these voices, plus a life that was beginning to collapse. He had no job, he couldn't get into college, he really had nothing. His boxing career was starting to fall apart. And it was then that he began to turn ever more extremely towards his Muslim faith.
In January 2012, Tamerlan arrived in Dagestan and stayed for 6 months. His family says he was there to get a passport, but Russian authorities think he was meeting extremists.
One of the things I tried to find out is what was Tamerlan like and how likely it would have been for him to secretly meet with the extremists who are fighting this jihad. The Tsarnaevs are half Chechen, the brothers are half Chechen, their father is Chechen. Chechnya is a region of southern Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, long-standing warrior traditions and a long tradition of fighting off Russia. That war in Chechnya has largely ended, and it has shifted to a much more jihadist, extremist Islamic uprising, and it's shifted to Dagestan, which is right next door on the border of the Caspian Sea, also in the Caucasus. It's a very complicated place with lots of ethnic groups, 33 ethnic groups, 80 nationalities. They're all living in this little region that's only twice the size of Massachusetts. It's an Islamic revival that's been going on for some time, but it's largely peaceful. And then there's the extremists up in the mountains. That's a war. In Makhachkala, the capital, you can get sushi, you can get cappuccinos with beautiful coffee art. People drive nice cars. It seems like a peaceful place. And then there'll be an explosion. And then there'll be suicide bombers arrested, and there'll be a shooting at a checkpoint. And that's the place where Tamerlan and Dzhokhar's mother is from. Tamerlan, when he arrives, he stands out. He was wearing these Pakistani shirts that, you know, he equated with what Muslims wear. Well, in Dagestan, Muslims have long beards, but they wear t-shirts and sweatpants. People don't stand out.
Если мы описываем его внешне, визуально, высокий, красивый, статный, одет не скажу вызывающий, но примечательно, то есть так не одевались здесь местные. Особая стрижка, ход за лицом, да. Сразу выделяюсь не местным, у нас люди одеваются однотипно.
He makes a show of giving money to beggars on the street. Dagestan, really, you don't make a show of doing things.
Что иностранный гражданин, который привлекает себе внимание, приехал сюда, его с распростертыми объятиями примут в подполье, это глупости.
Underground people aren't allowed to just show up in society. As soon as those guys show up, they either get arrested or they get shot.
Все, кого они забрали, они все были виновны.
I met with human rights workers who were trying to help people they said were being mistreated by authorities. Authorities would say, you're aiding the insurgents, we have to blow up your house because we think you're hiding weapons there. So this person was trying to help them, trying to complain to police, going through the proper channels. Eventually, after I talked to her, a couple of weeks later, she was arrested, aiding the insurgents. So to meet clandestinely for Tamerlan in a way that no one's going to notice, in a way that he can get away with it, in a way that he doesn't get arrested, and then leave peacefully. A lot of people are telling me it's really unlikely that could have happened. We definitely know that he met through a third cousin on his mother's side. The third cousin is a leader of a group who believe in establishing the caliphate, an Islamic state ruled by Sharia law. But they believe in doing it through peaceful means, not by fighting. Do they know insurgents? Yes. One of the things I found out about Dagestan is that anybody does. You walk into that sushi bar or cappuccino place and you ask the server, do you know anybody in the insurgents? And they say, oh yeah, my brother-in-law went off there. Or they say, I don't, but my best friend's brother-in-law went off there. The Union of the Just, the people that Tamerlan fell in with, do not advocate violent means. They don't fight with the insurgents. Tamerlan spent a lot of time with these guys. He became close friends with them. He went to the beach with them. He prayed with them. They're the ones who know the most about Tamerlan.
Что Тамерлан покидал Российскую Федерацию без каких-либо мыслей, ну, насколько я знаю, чтобы устраивать какие-то теракты и вести войну на территории США либо же России.
They insist that the idea of bombing the marathon was something that he never mentioned. They also, while I was there, were all being interrogated by the FBI. One of the things that's very telling is what the FBI was asking them. I was able to listen to a recording of a 3-hour-long interview the FBI did with one of Tamerlan's closest friends in Dagestan. The agents never asked questions about Tamerlan trying to join the insurgency, meeting with militants, meeting with recruiters, and you'd think if that was something they wanted to find out, Tamerlan's friends would be the ones they'd ask. What they're interested in was whether Dagestan is where he developed his hatred for America, who here set Tamerlan against the United States. But what looks to be indisputable is that whatever Tamerlan was looking for in Dagestan, he didn't find it.
And Dzhokhar? What could have led the younger Tsarnaev brother, only 19 years old at the time of the attack, to become a terrorist bomber?
Well, I remember when Dzhokhar first came to the class, he didn't speak a lot of English. My understanding was they had just come to the country, and I remember both his mother and father were very eager about his academic success.
Here, he's the youngest of the 4 children in the family. He came here when he was 8. He was born in Kyrgyzstan, and he actually was the first to arrive here with his parents, and then Tamerlan came about a year later with the sisters.
He was very studious. He'd laugh at a good joke, and he loved to play soccer, so like out on the playground he'd always get into a game with the kids, and I think that was sort of how he made connections before he could really speak English well. When I was thinking about him more recently, I remembered his handwriting. And I can still sort of have this visual image of it was very meticulous and neat, and cursive for a 3rd grader is pretty, in this country pretty unusual, but he had this perfect penmanship and just took real care.
Dzhokhar was one of those guys who worked really hard. His teammates respected him. He took the role as a leader, and he fulfilled all those requirements, and he really seemed to be a nice guy. Everybody liked him. We've eventually elected him captain of the team. And to be captain of the team, you had to not only be a good wrestler, but you had to have the confidence of the coaches, and you had to have the confidence of the players, the other wrestlers. So it's like a unique thing to be captain, a special honor in Cambridge.
I went into my bedroom and got out a file box, and I just have this one file that just says like random memories, and I don't keep a lot of stuff, like I'm not that sentimental, but I had that picture from his class that first year, and I pulled it out, and I went back to the television, and I stood there, and I was like, that's him, that's him, that's him. And I started crying right away. Like how could it be that I knew this person, that this one of my kids?
I'm Zolan Kano Youngs. I'm currently a co-op at the Boston Globe, and I knew Dzhokhar. He lived 2 blocks away from me. We were good friends, probably starting from freshman year of high school. I went to Cambridge Ringe Latin School with Dzhokhar. We graduated the same year in the class of 2011. I saw the picture last night, and even if the thought crossed in the back of my head, it still didn't ring an alarm, just because it was too blurry. I thought it could never be, and I think that's a testament to his character just in that. And My roommates woke me up this morning, probably around like 8 a.m., saying that it was somebody from Cambridge Ridge Latin. And then I got to the TV and I saw his name on the headline. And Dzhokhar was just a guy with, full potential and never showed any signs of doing this whatsoever. I think that if you ask anybody in Cambridge that truly knew him and truly hung out with him, then you would know that this is probably the most shocking news that we've heard in a while. As someone that's in the news, I can't even comprehend it still. And even as the facts start to come out, like you have something in the back of your head, like, wow, like that maybe looks like Dzhokhar. And the crazy thing is, probably my first reaction is reach out to him, and I did, just to say, yeah, man, like be careful because these people might, try and think that it's you.
Globe Sports co-op Zolan Kano-Youngs tried to contact Dzhokhar Tsarnaev because it never occurred to him that his friend could be the bombing suspect. He worried that Tsarnaev could be mistaken for the second suspect in the white hat until he realized that it was him.
And, I think that's right there can tell you how far from my mind even relating these two was. Just the fact that I was gonna, I tried to contact him just to, to make sure that he would be, away from the media. And it turned out to be him. And he was one of the more peaceful religious people I know. He never brought up any sort of political views whatsoever. As I think now, I'm still in shock. I honestly can't accept it, and I'm gonna have to.
On some level, you're sort of going, well, how do you go from being the captain of the wrestling team and an honor student, National Honor Society member, and then go to being a bomber? Taking a close look at his college years, I got a little closer to understanding that, he had these thrill-seeking tendencies. He became a risk taker, and he had this, sort of plummeting dream of finishing college.
I think he was a little too laid back. I mean, so he would do his homework, but I mean, he gets like in the class that we had, if he gets a bad grade, it really didn't bother him. Sometimes, I'd ask him, "Oh, did you do the homework?" And he would say no, and it didn't seem to really affect him.
He had dismal grades. He sold marijuana, and as we've been told by, people who knew him well and knew his drug business well. I mean, he sold, he took in like $1,000 a week, which is quite a bit of money. But the final dot is to like, okay, how do you go from a kid who had a profound sense of failure, had no trouble taking risks, came from a very troubled family, you can put all that together, but then you can say, well, there are a lot of people who have that too, and they don't become a bomber. It seems to me, obviously, there were probably a lot of other psychological things at work that even he would not reveal necessarily to his closest friends.
I knew, then my first thing is to think back, like, how did I miss this? Like, if this was all, this was all brewing and he was doing this and thinking about this, how when I lived with him did I not see a single sign of, like, oh, that's a little suspicious.
People felt that, yes, Tamerlan was the mastermind, that he was almost like the bully that ordered Dzhokhar to do this. And I think that in the course of our reporting, Dzhokhar was the one who took risks. He was more of a thrill seeker. There was a time when the campus police knocked on his car window and a bunch of them were smoking pot in there. And he had this way of charming officers out of thinking that he was up to no good or that he would be the kid they would give a break to. One thing I felt in reading all his Twitter postings and talking to his friends is that I think Dzhokhar has a very keen mind. Tamerlan came out to be definitely more of a religious zealot and more politically ideological, but he also came off as more psychologically disordered toward the end. We have a couple people talking about how he had talked about hearing voices. As to saying who is in charge, I think I couldn't say, but I think that what I came away with was a feeling that Dzhokhar was a voluntary participant.
Looking back at it when they were doing the whole Manhunt, the weirdest part was that he was wearing one of the sweatshirts that I saw him wear wear a lot, and it was just kind of weird, like, how is this happening where I know who this kid is and like I know what he looks like and I've seen him wear that before, like it just made it all so surreal.
10:31 p.m., Thursday, the 18th of April, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh my goodness. All units respond. Shut up. Officer down. Officer down. All units.
Sean Collier, an officer with Massachusetts Institute of Technology's police department, was sitting in his police car on the MIT campus in Cambridge when he was shot to death by one of the Tsarnaev brothers. The brothers tried unsuccessfully to steal Collier's service weapon from his body, but were thwarted by the locking system in Collier's holster. Boston Area Police Emergency Radio Network broadcasts notification of the shooting, and at 11:16 p.m., Cambridge police issue a "Be on the lookout" for a suspect of armed robbery. After failing to get his gun, the brothers fled.
911, recorded line.
11 p.m. An SUV is carjacked on Brighton Avenue in the Allston neighborhood of Boston. They forced the vehicle owner to ride along before stealing money from him and stopping to get snacks from a local convenience store. They were allegedly headed to New York to set off more bombs in Times Square. 12:17 a.m., Friday the 19th of April. Cambridge Police Department receives a 911 call from the victim of the SUV carjacking.
911.
Please help me, please. They have guns.
Where are they?
They're in the Shell gas station in Memorial Drive.
They were in front of the gas station?
Yes, I just go wrong. They say that they are they did the explosion, marathon explosion. They are Muslims.
Somehow he managed to escape, fleeing to another gas station across the street, cowering in fear that they would follow him. The victim provides information that associates the carjackers with the marathon bombings and tells investigators that the vehicle has a manufacturer tracking system, which is activated. Not long after, the older Tsarnaev runs into the store to tell his brother what has happened. Dzhokhar drops his packs of Doritos and Red Bulls, and the pair race away. The chase was on. 12:26 a.m. Cambridge police issue a "Be on lookout" for the black Mercedes SUV and the carjackers, noting that they are armed. A police radio network broadcasts that the two male armed carjackers are at large.
We got a call from Cambridge PD. They just pinged the phone that was in the vehicle in question on the carjacking. It's in the area, 61 Dexter Ave, the 2013 Mercedes. Okay, now the vehicle's moving now, units. Okay, they're pinging the vehicle. It's 89 Dexter Ave. It's the vehicle that's being pinged.
Watertown police units move in.
We're getting an update. There may be guns in the vehicle.
The manufacturer tracking system in the SUV located the vehicle at 81 Dexter Avenue in Watertown. Watertown Police Dispatch puts out a call over the radio with the location of the vehicle, advising that response should be treated as a felony stop. An officer eventually locates the vehicle, makes eye contact with the vehicle's operator, and is instructed to wait to approach until a supervisor nearby arrives on the scene before engaging. But it was the brothers who made the first move.
Reported shots fired at officer, turns up the vehicle.
The officer follows the SUV and a Honda sedan in his vehicle. However, the SUV driver suddenly stops, exits the vehicle, and walks towards the officer's cruiser while firing a gun.
Shots fired at Watertown police officers. We need assistance immediately. Shots fired again. Shots fired again. We have 3 units responding.
The second suspect emerges from the Honda sedan, tossing homemade improvised explosive devices towards the officers.
These eyes, we're getting a report from the patrol supervisor that these suspects has unpowerful dynamite type explosives with them, and they're throwing it at the officers that are responding.
Responding officers' radio indicates shots fired, causing Watertown Dispatch Center to call for immediate assistance from other police departments. Firefight ensues between police and suspects, followed by several hundred police officers responding to the scene. 12:50 a.m. After a 7-minute firefight, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, now weakened by multiple gunshot wounds, is tackled by 3 Watertown police officers, Sergeant Jeffrey Pouliez, Sergeant John McClellan, and Officer John Reynolds. He struggles as they try to handcuff him. Dzhokhar gets back into the Mercedes SUV and steers it directly at the 3 police officers. He barely misses Pulias, who is attempting to drag Tamerlan to safety. Dzhokhar runs over his brother, seriously injuring him and contributing to Tamerlan's death shortly afterward in a Boston hospital. Richard Donahue, a Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority officer, is hit by friendly fire and nearly bleeds to death. The officers had 1 brother down, just 1 to go.
All officers responded. We have 1 body pinned down, and we have another one on the run, shots fired.
Dzhokhar Tsarnaev fled in the Mercedes, but didn't go too far. He abandoned the car on a street in Watertown and smashed his 2 cell phones to make it more difficult to track him.
A shootout and now an extraordinary manhunt. Several hundred police officers are scouring these streets for a man they are convinced is a suspect in the bombing. In their words, a terrorist who has come here to kill people. People were warned to stay indoors and lock them. Police trying to prevent the suspect from taking a family hostage.
1:35 a.m. Tamerlan is pronounced dead at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. The cause? Traumatic injuries of the head and torso. His fingerprints lead to identification of both bombing suspects. Officers were still on the hunt for the younger of the 2 brothers. After abandoning the Mercedes, he hid inside a boat stored in the backyard of a house. While he lay in hiding, he wrote a message on the inside wall of the boat, saying that the terror attack was in response to the U.S. wars in Muslim countries. Officers spent the day searching the area for the suspect. They went door to door, street by street, making sure that no stone was left unturned.
On the roof of a restaurant, officers spot a man acting suspiciously. Tens of thousands live here. They're looking for 1 teenage bomber. Nearby, suddenly another sighting, a young man with a baseball cap. The police desperate to kill or capture the right man. 4 days after the bombing, and the police believe they may have cornered the suspect just up here. They've just called in a Russian interpreter. There are dozens of officers here, very, very edgy. Guns going. Back it up. We've got to go. They detain 1 man. Again, he's not the suspect, but they're hunting someone who's just killed a policeman, and they're taking no chances. All day, circling, scouring from the air, military helicopters. Just below them, snipers, weapons trained. A city locked in, on edge, watching in hope and in utter disbelief.
At 6:42 p.m., Watertown police received a call from a resident who had spotted Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. Within moments, more than 100 officers from various departments had converged on the scene. In the pandemonium, an officer fired on the boat without authorization, and others, mistakenly thinking the shot came from the suspect, began shooting as well. After the brief fusillade, infrared imaging from a police copter confirmed that Dzhokhar was still alive, and after a 2-hour standoff, the wounded suspect emerged and was arrested.
People here don't know whether to be excited or relieved, because after 4 days of violence and tension, finally it's over. But for the police, the most important thing is that they've caught their suspect alive, so he can talk.
Is it important to you that they seem to have got him alive?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to see what this kid was thinking and if he's part of something bigger, and I'm glad that he wasn't killed outright, because dead men can't tell their stories.
Grateful to be an American and grateful to be alive and safe today, and very thankful to everybody who assisted in getting the suspect.
Are you happy that he's alive?
Yes, I'm very happy. I think we all want some answers.
I run the Boston Marathon. I have for the last 7 years in a row, and I'll be running again this year. But it was an unfortunate incident that year and kind of just selfish act. And, unfortunately, a lot of people were injured and unnecessarily injured. So I'm just curious to see what happens with the case.
It was definitely a horrific day in Boston. I was in New York for 9/11. I was here for the marathon bombing, and it really shook the city. So I think some significant consequences are definitely in store.
I absolutely believe somebody who was capable of planning such a horrific, like, crime, accident, whatever you want to call it, something of this nature, something so gruesome, I absolutely think deserves the death penalty, no matter what age there is, as long as we can prove that they, you know, are stable of mind and body and soul and had every intention of doing what they did.
It was a great day before the bombing happened, and then everyone's kind of ripped apart. So many lives have been affected by it. People have lost their lives, families, and people are still suffering from it. So I think everyone's done a great job to rally around and make sure that we're all together in this and that no one's alone. So I think it just made the Boston Marathon that much more special. I don't think it detracted away from anything at this point. So I think, if anything, it made the race stronger.
On May 15, 2015, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the surviving bomber, was convicted by a federal jury in Boston on 30 charges related to the bombing and the killing of Officer Collier, and was sentenced to death by lethal injection on 6 of the counts. At his trial, he apologized to survivors and family members of the victims. The explosions took the lives of 3 spectators: 8-year-old Martin Richard, 29-year-old Crystal Campbell, and 23-year-old Lu Ling Zi.
It makes you angry. You know, I hate him. You know, I hate the fact that, sorry, you know, he destroyed my boys' lives. You know, it's almost 2 years. Everybody else's life goes on, and you just can't get past that. You know, it just doesn't go away, and it's sad.
I want to know how he and his brother managed to fly under the radar with 2 sides of identities. How they managed to flip the switch from good to evil is what I want to know. What happened there?
2 years on, are you any closer to an answer?
No, I'm not. We don't know why this happened. We know what happened and how it happened. But for those of us that knew these guys, we want to know where it happened.
He was sent to the federal Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, where he was incarcerated with terrorists such as Unabomber Ted Kaczynski and airline shoe bomber Richard Reed. Tsarnaev's death sentence was later overturned by a federal appeals court on grounds of possible jury exposure to media coverage and exclusion of evidence. But in March 2022, it was reinstated by the U.S. Supreme Court.
The trial in the courthouse behind me here has allowed survivors to see justice being done. No one is talking of closure. There is too much pain for that. But it has allowed this city to move on from its darkest day.
With one of the bombers dead and the other behind bars, the citizens of Boston celebrate. April 21, 2014. 1 year on from the Boston bombings, the citizens of Boston bounce back.
This is first Boston. No, I couldn't be more excited. Excited, that's all I can say is I'm so excited I can't stand it.
I just came from watching my husband hop on the bus for his 14th Boston Marathon. Yeah, so I'll be just waiting at the finish line with a medal for him.
Find my wife and kiss her. I'm not going to kiss his wife. Just going to relish this accomplishment and a triumph. Just, you know, for humanity over what happened last year and for our sport.
Yeah. Boston crowd. Big Boston crowd. Right. Way to go.
This morning feels about the same. At the end of last year, we're hoping for. Yeah, I actually wanted to do the same things I did last year to have a different outcome. Which is? Get in the same car, come meet my same running buddy, get it to go wait in the lines.
Since the bombing event last year, we've had an NYPD detective from our intelligence unit assigned to Boston. He's been up here full-time, the constant exchange of information as the investigations of that event kept moving forward. So it's the idea of constantly learning from each other. Boston, having had a recent experience, the unfortunate experience, lots to learn from them, things that we might want to do differently going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was absolutely amazing. I think I cried through the whole race. The crowd came out in full force. They screamed and shouted the entire 26 miles. It was amazing. We didn't think we would come back, to be honest with you, but then by the next day, my friend and I, we came together, said we've got to go back next year. So we were determined to come back with a vengeance, and we did, and I'm so glad we did.
It was amazing. I mean, everywhere in the starting line, Hopkinton all the way down. When you see all the girls asking for kisses, that's pretty cool. You get a very nice environment, and I mean, here like the last 4 miles, all the crowd just cheering. Pretty amazing, pretty amazing. I mean, couldn't ask for better.
I'm from Oregon, came from a group where one of the group members was here last year, and he assembled a whole bunch of us to come and run and make a statement that we're not letting things like what happened last year prevent us from participating in events like this one.